Hello, welcome to Agentic Capital Partners, where we spotlight builders, early operators, and ambitious teams, sharing the real stories behind their startups, ventures, and projects, be that lessons learned, pivots made, wins earned, and mistakes survived. My name is Maria Probert. I'm your host today, and we have Kevin Koym joining us. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Maria. Thank you for this opportunity.
Of course, thank you. Kevin Koym is a seven-time startup veteran and the founder and CEO of Tech Ranch Austin, a globally recognized venture accelerator supporting early-stage technology companies. And he's here to talk about Tech Ranch's Venture Relationship Accelerator. So to start, do you think you could briefly explain what VRA is, how it works, and what motivated Tech Ranch to develop this program?
Yeah, I'll mention it. So Tech Ranch helps global entrepreneurs access markets to drive impact. When I say that, global entrepreneurs, we've worked with entrepreneurs from 46 different countries all around the world. In fact, I've been in 23 different countries over the last decade. So real commitment to, if you've ever heard Bill Joy, he said there's more brains outside your company than inside your company. It's also true outside your country than inside your country. So we can solve all sorts of problems if we leverage all the different entrepreneurial minds out there. To access markets, we typically help entrepreneurs land in Texas, land in Mexico, but we've done it in other places as well. But the idea is to have them have support for landing in those markets. And then to drive impact, typically the entrepreneurs we're working with have technologies that solve some human need. We call it impact innovation, technology that solves some human need. Everything from, farming technology to water technology to all sorts of different types of health. Even stuff like cybersecurity now is an essential. And so the whole idea behind the VRA is we really want to, in my experience, especially if you're stepping across a country boundary, it can be true even in your own country, right? Even here in Texas, ventures build relationships, and relationships are what build the company and build the opportunity. And so part of what we want to do is we're here to help you accelerate that. And it's for a good reason, right? The ventures that we worked with are the entrepreneurs that are changing the world for the better, and so we're really excited about getting to support them. And our whole ecosystem, our whole community, is built around this premise about helping entrepreneurs that are changing the world for the better. We really believe that right now, especially, it's time to focus on those type of entrepreneurs.
You kind of touched on this a little bit, but do you think you could further elaborate on why building these venture relationships with mentors, investors, and partners is critical for the early stage, but also for those companies that are outside of the US?
I'll give you a couple of examples. For whatever reason, right now comes top of mind are some of the ventures that we're working with that are in oncology, that deal with cancer. One of our ventures is based out of San Antonio, and it is a cancer cure, a liver cancer cure. And the scientist that leads it and his small team is a gentleman by the name of Vincent Pham. Brilliant guy, right? He truly has a liver cancer cure that's working in mice right now. But he doesn't have a lot, because he grew up in science, his career's been in science. He doesn't have a lot of the business relationships that, a business that's going to go build up and solve all these cancer issues. He doesn't have a lot of those connections. He doesn't have the connections to capital. He doesn't have the connections to some of the market makers that he needs access to. A guy like that, we want to step in. We want to help him go from being a scientist to an entrepreneur that can be successful, but also in his venture, build out all the relationships that he needs. Like, as an example, on the venture's behalf, I've been building relationship with Austin Community College. They have an amazing lab, a bio lab there. And because we have these relationships, we're able to open these doors faster than he could have himself. He could have done it himself. It's not like he couldn't. We just want to accelerate that whole process. A second example that has to deal with cancer is we've got a company out of Hungary that has a really advanced prostate cancer test. In the United States, still today, we have men dying of prostate cancer. It makes no sense because it's an inherently preventable cancer. Yet the test that most of us at my age have like gone through, it's not very accurate here in the United States. These guys in Hungary have a cancer test that, for prostate cancer, that's 1,000 times more accurate. Okay, how do we actually accelerate something like that? Again, scientists, brilliant. They've come up with a whole different way of doing it. They've gotten their science to now be technology. The technology is becoming a product. The product is right now being tested in Germany. We want to get that technology into the United States and into Mexico as quickly as possible, because it's not just a good business, it's also going to save men's lives. And the main thing about it is the whole speed of that is the speed of relationships. The speed of relationships is the speed of trust. Given that we TechRanch have a number of trust relationships, we, can prep the venture and the entrepreneur before we put them in front of these other relationships, and then help them get established really quickly. That's the whole idea behind the VRA. It's the whole idea more generally about what we do at TechRanch. How do we actually build the communities that really support the entrepreneurial ventures that are doing these life-changing, world-changing kind of technologies?
Amazing. And thank you for sharing those examples and just like how meaningful those relationships can be. And I'm wondering if you could also share more about like what those outcomes, or like what are the milestones that you track to measure that those participating partners are getting success.
Well, in this case, it's like I use two examples. Not everyone that we're working with works on a health technology, but the nice thing about these two examples is there's a direct count of number of people that save their lives. Like the ventures will actually end up saving lives. Both of them will. Not all the ventures do that. A lot of them are quality of life type of issues, or quality of food or water, or other healthcare, or other technologies like security technologies that are needed, whether it's physical or cybersecurity, is really important. The type of things that we look at is typically any venture, since we're actually, this is not a charitable process. We're actually using we're using business as the tools of how to engage. Anything like that, either one of these ventures have to find their beachhead markets, the little niche. A lot of times we'll have entrepreneurs from around the world, or even here in Texas, that say, hey, I'm in a multi-billion-dollar market. And I tell them one of my friend's stories. There's a guy named Raj Shah. He's a friend of mine for many, many years, former McKinsey consultant, ended up selling his business for $500 million. And, I was like, hey, Raj, how did you do that? Right. It's like, I'm one of the early stage guys. I've been involved in these earlier stage type of exits and stuff like that. How do you sell a company for $500 million? Well, he said, you start with a $4 billion market and you look for the $200 million market that leads the $4 billion market. And then he took the $200 million market and he said, here's the $20 million market that leads the $200 million market. And what they did was they devised a process to go after 90% of that $20 million market. Now, most entrepreneurial ventures, when they look at coming to the States, especially, they say, I'm going to go to the States. It's going to Hollywood. We're going to be a superstar. We're working in a $4 billion market. The truth is that that's not how you eat the elephant. To really take this sort of stuff on, you have to figure out how to engage those really small markets so that you can get to the success, right? And so we have a whole process that we'll do. The first part is how to message into those type of markets, how to select a $20 million market or something on that size. It's not necessarily just 20 million, but the idea is if you're thinking about a $4 billion market, let's find something that's very small, that's bite-sized to engage with. And so Usually the first steps are prepping for that kind of like looking around, doing like kind of almost like I call it guerrilla testing, guerrilla tactics. Where can we find that's the soft spot to engage in the market? Where can we actually own part of a niche that then allows us to take, because we want to make sure that that at each step along the way we can actually build more access. The other part of what this ties into between Tech Ranch and Agentic Capital, as an example, is any of the ventures and entrepreneurs that are coming to the States, and you're outside of this country, outside of the United States, by coming to the US, your value of your company is going to go up just by coming to the States. Now, the way to really validate that, though, in the eyes of the investor, is not only to open up your Delaware C Corp and things like that, but to get just a little bit of market traction, validates to the investors that just because you did business in Austria or wherever you might have been, now that you're in Texas, you can actually, you get a little bit of traction in the market. The investors are going to say, okay, they know how to do this. And they'll not only recognize the increase in value of your company, but they'll also work with you from a standpoint of giving you the funding.
Great.
Yeah, it just kind of this is the whole secret about how we take advantage of those type of processes and help companies come to town or come to the country and be successful.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing those insights and also talking about VRA. Lastly, if anyone's interested in learning more, where can people reach you?
Go to techranch.com. One of the ways you can read about some of our programs, some of our success and things like that. If you have more questions, the other thing to do is there's a contact us form on the, just check the menu. There's a place to go contact. So yeah, techranchaustin.com/contact is a great place to and tell us about your venture. It'd be great if you happen to mention it. If you see us on the show, tell us that too. Hey, I saw you on Maria's show, and we'd love to engage with you and help you go to market, help you go to an investor, and just get you to business success.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. And thank you all for watching this interview. To learn more about Agentic Capital Partners, head over to the channel description and information, and feel free to reach out to us directly. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you again, Maria. Take care.
Here.